Warning. A great deal of scenes and or lines from certain scenes have been cut and will not be appearing due to the fact that this is a book trailer and not a movie. Sad face. Some of the characters may not have on the exact outfit or outfits that they were described wearing in the book, and some of the locations may not look exactly as how described. I'm Jaylenhill, and this is a Hill Factory production. The same hair, the same eye color, the same face, the same everything. Nothing differentiated us. My twin sister Leah and I sat next to each other at a circular wooden table in front of Miss DeMille, Virginia's own locally famous tarot card reader and psychic. Leah looked at me with a smirk of disbelief. My jaw dropped in shock. Her dark brown eyes had turned completely white, not a pupil or iris to be seen. Miss DeMille flipped over the first card without even looking at it. Instead, she kept her vision focused straight ahead. Eve from the beginning times. A representation of innocence, youth, curiosity, feminism, and love. She is you, and you are her. And without the birth of the other, neither of you would have ever existed. Eventually, my dear, there will come a time where, like Eve, you will be forced to make a decision. Around the time that decision is made, you will be forced to make a second decision. And in this decision, you must choose to either annihilate or be annihilated. Oh, this is crap, Leela. Let's go. This woman's nuts. What's wrong, dear? Leaving so soon? If you look closely at the card, you'll be able to see your representation too. 3 months had passed since our encounter with Miss DeMille, the crazy card reader, fortune teller, or whatever she was. But her words still echoed in my head. I could hear her husky, sluggish voice dragging out the words. Annihilate or be annihilated. Leela, you gonna come down and eat your dinner? Be there in a sec, Mom. Where's Sammy? Hey, kiddo. I think she's still up in her room. Moments later, Sammy came walking into the kitchen. Sammy is Leah and I's younger sister, and though she was only 16, she was tall for her age, about 5'10". I'm here. I just got off the phone with Mavis Ginger. You know, my friend that lives over across from that old fortune teller lady. What was her name again? You girls stay away from that place. That old woman is crazy. Oh, mother, you never have to worry about me going to a wicked place like that. I can't speak for these ladies over here, though. We have to find a way to bribe Sammy. That little bitch is so evil. And every time I get... She teased as she continued to ramble on. But suddenly her voice began to fade until I couldn't hear her anymore. Not because she wasn't talking, or not because there was something wrong with my hearing, but because I suddenly felt this sharp pain in the pit of my stomach that came out of nowhere. "3 days had passed, and while I had spent all of my free time sleeping, Leah was always energized. Not overly energized, but definitely not as tired as I was. You feeling okay? Yeah. What are you doing up this early? School, duh. You get some rest. My eyes popped open. My heart had been pounding. I felt for Leah next to me. I hurried over and shook her with my hands. I just had the scariest dream. I wanted to tell her about my dream, but seeing as how she had just had a bad dream of her own, the timing didn't seem right. I felt hundreds of claws and hands, reaching and grabbing for me, pushing and pulling me, scratching my skin, even gnawing on me. Leah, we had the same dream at the same time. Leela, what's happening to us? I wish I could tell you, but I don't know either. It totally sounds like twin telepathy to me. Tabitha Seaver had been one of our many childhood friends that we'd grown up with since kindergarten. She was one of those people that hated to be wrong and thought she knew everything about everything, when in reality, she knew almost something about a couple of things. Well, anyway, the point is that because you guys were sleeping so close to each other, one of you rubbed the dream off to the other. Yeah, right. I'm sure of it. I told you, Leela. Whatever, Leah. I sat at the back of the gym, rubbing my fingers through my hair, contemplating whether or not I should call and make a doctor's appointment today, when he walked in. He had an angelic aura about himself, with the face of the angels. There was a certain presence about him that stood out like a flashlight being shone around a room full of darkness. And just looking at him gave me a case of the butterflies. You live around here? Only my whole life. I'm Leela. Everything was going great when suddenly the door behind him flew open as a beautiful girl walked in. I immediately felt insecure after seeing her. There you are, lover boy. We're about to go to lunch. She stopped as she peered over his shoulder, making direct eye contact with me. Her stare was piercing my soul. I wanted to look away from her. In fact, I tried to, but I couldn't. So are you gonna call him? Of course I'm gonna call him. He was totally hot. He didn't have a bad set of buns either. When you saw her face, did you feel any pain? Yeah, I had a headache. Why? Because I know you don't believe in the paranormal and the supernatural and so on and so forth. But I'm starting to think the weather is somehow connected to our pain. That's the most ridiculous thing I've ever heard. I'm serious, Leah. Think about it. Whenever I'm in pain, it starts to rain. And whenever you're in pain, it gets really hot out. Remember the first night it happened? Leela, this is only the second time I've gotten a pain out of nowhere. I'm sure it's not impossible for pains to just come for no apparent reason, and I'm sure the rain and sunshine were in the weather forecast. You're being silly. No, Leah, just watch. I closed my eyes, picturing the incident that happened earlier when I was talking to Jared. how Adrian's eyes had pierced through my soul and somehow paralyzed me. I could feel her creepy gaze as if I were reliving the moment all over again. I even remembered the smell, the sickening, strong, thick smell of vanilla. I got out of bed and walked downstairs to the kitchen. The house was dark. I raised the cup up to my mouth and took a sip. I could hear footsteps walking around upstairs above me, but I knew it was Sammy. I wondered what was taking Sammy so long. Usually she was ready, dressed, and downstairs eating breakfast by now, because the school bus came at 7 o'clock on the dot, and old Mrs. Farrington, who had been our school district's bus driver since 1987, would leave with or without you. I'd better go tell her what time it is. I began to feel very unsettled within myself. If it wasn't Sammy, then who was it? Your father and I want to talk to all of you girls. As a matter of fact, there will be a family meeting in the dining room in 30 minutes. Well, ladies, your father and I have... Hurry up, Samantha. There was an awkward silence for the next couple of minutes as the four of us left in the room sat staring at each other. I'm going to get my phone real quick. I left it upstairs. Me too. We'll be right back. It was Jared. What do you think this is about? The meeting, I mean. I don't know, but whatever it is, I'm sure it's important. Has to be. Why else would they wait for me to come home to have the meeting? If it wasn't important, I'm sure they would have just waited till tomorrow.
Well, girls, your mom and I have thought long and hard about this. And after a long thought process and lots of conversation, your mother and I have decided to get a divorce.
The next couple of days had been the most awkward, making our household very uncomfortable. Mom hadn't been speaking to Dad, Dad hadn't been speaking to Mom, and Sammy hadn't been speaking to either of them. Our perfect family was breaking apart. Can you believe what our lives are coming to? Complete and total hell. I suddenly caught a whiff of something tangy. It was getting closer and closer, allowing for the smell to grow stronger and stronger. I looked around the mall to see if I could tell where it had been coming from, when I saw her for the first time. She kind of resembled someone, but I couldn't quite put my finger on it at the time. She walked out of the glass double doors, but even after she left, the smell of orange citrus lingered through the mall for a while.
Scared she's gonna make the right decision and actually want to stay here with me?
No, Alex, I'm not. But since we're talking about making right decisions, why don't you make a right one right now and look your 3 beautiful daughters in their eyes and tell them why we were really getting a divorce? The rain began to pick up along with the worsening of my pains. It was now raining so hard that you couldn't see out of the window that sat behind Mom's chair anymore. Only the quick, heavy downpour of the rain. Tell them that you're leaving me for a woman who's only 5 years older than Leah and Leela. Go on. Tell them that that's the real reason you couldn't come with us on our big family vacation this summer, Alex. Go ahead. Tell them. I hate you, I thought to myself while looking directly at my father, which is a moment that I will forever regret. My pains had been the worst they'd ever been. My eyes were focused on him, and if I wasn't sure that I had had something to do with the weather before, I was certain of it now.